The Literary Corner, brought to you by New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity. Hi, this is the most amazing collection I have read so far. I'm a reading-aholic, Dustin Pickering. You know me from Parrot Literary Corner. This is the Literary Parrot, available at Amazon.com and its various affiliates. If you have not seen this collection, it's 249 pages of glorious global literature in a contemporary vein. This covers a lot of subjects, from the coronavirus to violence on the streets, to love, to romance. Everything you can imagine is in this collection, and you should buy it now. I'll tell you why. It's a collection of unique voices from the Literary Parrot. People who have been on our show, have participated in this, or have been published on our website, newyorkparrot.com. So please, I implore you, buy a copy. Thank you, and The Literary Corner, brought to you by New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity. Hello, welcome to New York Parrot's Literary Corner. I'm Dustin Pickering, your noble and honest host. Today, we have the wonderful Chad Norman, who lives beside the high tides of the Bay of Fundy, Truro, Nova Scotia. He has given talks and readings in Denmark, Sweden, Wales, Ireland, Scotland, America, and across Canada. His poems appear in publications around the world and have been translated into Danish, Albanian, Romanian, Turkish, Italian, Spanish, Chinese, Czech, and Polish. His collections are Selected and New Poems from Mosaic Press and Squall, Poems in the Voice of Mary Shelley from Guernica Editions. And Simona, a celebration of the SPCA, came out early in 2021 from cyberwit.net in India. Thanks for joining us today, Chad. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm wonderful, Dustin. Thank you very much for having me. We have a great day going on here in Nova Scotia. So it's nice to have the sun kind of coming through the windows as we speak as well.
Excellent. So it's a good sunny day out there. So it's a good day for poetry and a good day for writing. So I'm curious. You've visited a lot of countries, especially European and in the kingdom. Do you find that each of the countries you visited have different approaches to poetry, or they different expectations?
Yeah, most definitely. And of course, when I was in those different countries, I was kind of doing, more kind of private and mental comparisons with Canada. And, when you're in a country like Ireland, of course, there's no question about you might be sitting somewhere, maybe in a pub or sitting somewhere where people would break out into song or reciting poetry from memory.
Oh, interesting. So, and yeah, I've heard Ireland is very artsy and a lot of music in the streets, and it's a lot more. In America, it's a lot more ho hum, and as far as there's certain places where you can perform and sit and busk and do things like that. And I've heard Ireland is just very open, I guess maybe it depends on where you're at.
Well, that's what I experienced too, and it really didn't matter if you were, say if you were in Dublin or if you were up north in Belfast, or it really didn't matter. It was kind of none of this kind of political thing got in the way in regard to any chance to come upon somebody on the street, or like I mentioned, in a pub, or there would always be some kind of a poetry event going on as well too. Everything from like a slam right to something like a book launch in a library.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you've had a lot of your poetry translated. I'm curious how that came about, and did you get any reactions or comments about the translations?
Well, translation is always something that I'm a bit kind of how can I say, I there's an inadequacy that I have to always deal with because of my I have no knowledge really of the language that the poem or poems have been translated into. So it certainly kind of keeps you humble in a way, but at the same time, you're thinking, you know, is it a good translation, and how can I know? But I kind of keep it simple, Dustin, where I stay more on the side of kind of gratitude and appreciation and just kind of fascination too by seeing your poems in some other language.
Mhm.
Things are starting to kind of open up more where I can kind of request either from the translator or maybe, another poet that speaks the particular language and have them kind of go into the poem and help me along with knowing that, yeah, no, things are good. This translator did a really good job.
So, have you had any comments back from people who've read the translations?
I have. Yeah, and again, that's kind of depending on the country and the language. More for me in regard to like say something, and strangely, like Romanian or Albanian. The Polish thing has just started to happen for me as well too, and the people that are the translators are or have become Facebook friends. So I have that kind of friend, kind of slash rapport, if you will. If I get curious, I can ask the questions that I certainly will have answered, and then will kind of lead me into going, wow, great. I'm impressed that of the quality of the translation, and therefore I'm kind of in the know more. Other than that, you're kind of sitting staring at your poem in another language on the page and kind of going, I don't know, I just don't know. But you're happy to see it in that language, of course.
So, is there any plans for future translations?
Yeah, yeah. I've got a couple of things that are I guess could be best described as offers that have come from a press or presses in one with Romania, also with the Mary Shelley work. I've been kind of trying. The book came out last year, in basically, and just fell prey to COVID really. So I've tried to kind of go into this kind of, exploration for the possibility of having the book translated into Italian. Because I mean, there's no question with the Shelleys ending up in Italy and spending the time there that they did, it would translate well into Italian. So, I this whole this whole world's kind of opened up to me since I did my reading tours in other countries, and really kind of expanded me thinking, there's a whole world out there that my poems might have an opportunity to be part of. And again, either in a magazine form or, a full length book form.
Interesting. So, how long does your career span that you have gone to new and selected poems? That's usually something that takes place after a considerable number of years. So, how long have you been writing, and what was the process like for arranging your new and selected poems?
Yeah, that was a completely different demand and venture for me. I mean, it's one thing where you're writing a particular manuscript and hoping that it's going to be, ultimately a particular book. But when you're delving back into the past and, trying to pick and choose things that are going to become a selected work, it's a whole different, like I say, a whole different challenge. And what I did is that I went right back to the beginning when I was about 24. I
Mhm.
started publishing, and there are poems that are from a chapbook, the very first kind of book that I put out at that age. So there's poems in the selected, and the selected start there. They start in the beginning, and that was very intentional. I remember years and years ago when I was just shortly after writing that book. I was still in my early 20s, mid to early 20s, and I had a review of all things come over from Britain. And the reviewer closed the review more or less saying that I would be embarrassed by these poems in the future. And I thought, well, I've never felt that way about them, and I can take them out and read them anytime, and they're relevant, and people enjoy them. So to have them in the selected was that was kind of a no-brainer. But it wasn't easy, and basically, what I came down to, what's included in that book, is I made the decision to say, would I want to read these aloud? You know, as
Mhm.
I age and kind of come to the end of my life or whatever, or end of when I can no longer read. And so that opened up things for me. That made it a heck of a lot easier.
So, do you find that in the process of going over your poems and the career you've had so far, do you feel that your style has essentially changed, or has it developed over the years?
Yeah, I like it's funny when you're at this end of things, like it's nearly 40 years
Mhm.
now since I first had my first poem published. And I see some of the what was in those first poems, still kind of part of the different themes and topics and muses, if you will, that I take up with, now in my later years, things like narrative and things like heavily based in observation, and also trying to capture something that I would say would be part of history or something like that. All of that's kind of still there in various kind of varying degrees now. But I think the thing too is that that's what's happened for me is I've been very influenced by poets that write different books each time they write it. And here in Canada, we have presses that aren't always open to that. They kind of want their poets to write the same book or a similar type of content, book after book. And I don't understand that, because as an artist and especially as a poet, you grow and you change. I mean, those are the given. It's just what happens. So, I go with that, and I'm a poet that definitely is led and taken over by muses.
And speaking of muses, your book "Squall: Poems in the Voice of Mary Shelley." What inspired that? What sparked your imagination to pursue that line?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because it's still a book that like I say, it got absolutely buried by COVID, and I did like kind of one virtual launch from it, and then put together a few videos myself of reading, a selection of poems that I liked and I like to read. But other than that, it didn't get the opportunity that I feel, especially a topic like that deserves. But it came about, um, probably around mid to late 90s, I think. And I got uh, out of my reading. I was reading about the kind of the second generation of the Romantic poets, those younger poets. and got swept up with Percy and started reading biographies and things like that. But while I was doing that, it was like kind of Mary was there with a finger on my shoulder, tapping my shoulder, right? So then once I started to include her, in that type of research and kind of filling myself up with the possibility of that being a muse, quite quickly it turned over to the couple. It turned over to both of them,
Mm-hmm.
and I literally was taken over by her. And it was kind of odd in a way too, because I was in a relationship at the time which was very kind of similar to theirs, where there were the two writers together, and not so much, poet, Percy being the poet, and Mary being the novelist. But I mean, it was very similar in a way of how the relationship went. And so as I began to kind of do my research and fill up with her, and it was a literal takeover. It was like a type of kind of possession for it. And even though I've written the book now and it's been published, she's still very much there. And I see her today, everywhere where I see, single moms trying to make a living from their writing, freelancing, and things like that. And just the kind of abuse that she had to put up with from Percy, and then he dies, and she has to deal with that on her own and things. And it's still very, very, very present. And so for me to have the opportunity to follow that muse, I feel that it definitely was a blessing.
Interesting. So, did you find anything interesting in your research and your possession, as you call it, through in writing that showed up in the book?
Oh, yeah, many things. I find a lot of what I ultimately wrote about and became poems, were fascinating to me as a man, and I think as who I was as a man at that time, trying to look at this woman in a way that I would, perhaps friends who were women or other writers, especially that, who are women, and they were around me at the time, going through their struggles as well and trying to, make a living from their writing and looking after a child or children.
Mhm.
All of that had an effect. I don't know how obvious that would be in the book. Probably not too obvious, because most of it is very kind of rooted in the 8 years that they spent together before Percy drowned.
Right. So, did you enjoy working with Guanica Press, and what was the process like?
Yeah, that's actually the word is Guernica,
Yeah,
and it
I had a
comes
hard time saying it.
yeah, and it
Yes,
comes from kind of Picasso. We think
Picasso.
of Picasso's painting, of course, and it's those words with the GU on the front. I'm telling you, they trip the best of us up. There's no question about it. But
Absolutely.
no, they were wonderful to work with. What I liked about them mostly was that they sent you a package of what they were looking for, as
Mhm.
one of their up and coming authors. So it gave you kind of a more of a kind of a clarity on, okay, well, they're looking for me to help sell the book. Well, that's no problem. I've been doing that for years. They're looking for me to, how am I going to promote the book? If it's me setting up my own readings, if it's me setting up my own tour, all of this kind of stuff came to me. Then they had like lists of magazines and all this kind of stuff. So for me, that was a change, because over the years, I've had a lot of, let's just say, trouble and difficulty with publishers. And it's not so much that I'm hard to work with. It's just that I have certain kind of expectations that I felt at the time, would make the best possible book. So up here in Canada, I don't know what it's like in a lot of other countries, but here in Canada, it has loosened up in regard to the author being involved with, like, say, for example, offering some feedback about possible cover images and things like that. But at one time, it was very rigid, and the author was kind of just meant to sit back and not say anything, right?
Right.
But Guernica was great that way. Like, I was directly involved with the artist that did the cover. It was easy for us because the book has illustrations in it by Judith S. Bauer. And so I basically went through and kind of narrowed down her illustrations, which I thought would be, possible cover images. And then the one we came up with quite quickly, and I was very happy that the artist, the cover designer person there, jumped all over it. So we were well on our way that way. So it was things like that that were unusual to me, but extremely welcomed.
So you had a little more liberty in helping with the design of the book when you worked with them, as compared to previous publishers, or compared to your experience talking with other writers. That, I mean, 'cause it sounds like, when I work with my publishing company, Transcendent Zero Press, we generally let the author have some sort of say in the design of the book and the structure of the book and so forth. Unusual to hear that a lot of publishers don't do that. I mean, you figure the author is the person that's sort of giving birth to this, and they should have a lot of say in what's being produced. And I guess a lot of publishers don't really do that. They just take the material, and they do as they will.
Well, I feel the same way, Dustin. I do. And I have right from the beginning, even publishing. That was the wonderful thing in the beginning because, I was I created these kind of reading groups where we would, go out and do readings, make enough money to publish, 25 or 50 chapbooks. And then we would be directly involved in, what did we want on the cover, and so
Hmm.
all of this kind of DIY thing, if you will, was part of my beginning. So when it came time, all of a sudden, you are dealing with a publisher, recognized kind of trade publisher or whatever you want to call it, and they want to publish your book, and they have, these ideas about the cover and stuff, and you don't necessarily agree with it. It's not always an easy situation. There's no question about it. But see, that was the thing too. What I was kind of up against, if you go back and you kind of look at some of the early collections here in Canada, there was virtually no cover artwork at all. It was the title and the poet's name, and then a heavier kind of type of paper, and that was it.
Right.
And I mean, budgets were budgets, and at one time here in Canada, with with a lot of the money that's coming through from the government and stuff, it's really been up and down. And all of a sudden, we've got way over on this side where we believe if there's like this real catchy kind of colorful cover, it's going to sell the book, right? And maybe it does. I don't know. I just, I really don't really care too much about that. But if I can have some say, I think it's going to be an image that is going to be, good for that particular collection of poems. But I'm quite willing to, I'm not so anal about it. I'll step back, and that was what was wonderful with Guernica, because the person I was working with was asking me,
Hmm.
and it it was,
Very different.
excuse me, it was almost odd in a way, kind of an unusual thing that I had to kind of step up to.
Well, we're going to take a brief break, and I hope you enjoyed this process of speaking with Chad Norman out there as viewers. Remember, you can leave your comments. You can leave your questions as well if you have questions for our guests. So let's go to our break, and we'll be right back. Is there an issue with the technology here? Waiting for the break. Let's go to the break. Well, take a look at the Parrot anthology, the literary Parrot. It's still available on Amazon, and it's available at podly.com as well. So if you guys out there are viewing right now, we definitely have
Keep watching the New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Hi, this is the most amazing collection I have read so far. I'm a reading-aholic. Dustin Pickering, you know me from Parrot Literary Corner. This is the Literary Parrot, available at Amazon.com and its various affiliates. If you have not seen this collection, it's 249 pages of glorious global literature in a contemporary vein. This covers a lot of subjects from the coronavirus to violence on the streets, to love, to romance. Everything you can imagine is in this collection, and you should buy it now. I'll tell you why. It's a collection of unique voices from the Literary Parrot. People have been on our show, have participated in this, or have been published on our website, newyorkparrot.com. So please, I implore you, buy a copy. Thank you, and please.
Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Hi, welcome back. You're watching Parrot's Literary Corner. We have Chad Norman today as our guest, and he is going to read us a couple of his works. So without further ado, Chad, if you're prepared to read a couple of them for us.
Yeah, what I thought I'd do, Dustin, is I would read from the 4 of the poems that I sent you.
Okay.
And I hope that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And a little bit of an introduction, not too long. The poems are from a manuscript called A Matter of Inclusion. And it's a manuscript of poems that I explore a number of kind of very relevant themes today, such as immigration, coming to Canada from other countries, the choice to choose Canada, to begin new lives or continue lives. Also, the poems deal with racism and, a very hard, clear look into that. Also, I think, too, that there's a bit of patriotism in there in regard to kind of speaking out, about Canada and getting to know Canada in a new way because of the people that are making choices to move here and start families and businesses and things like that. So the first poem I'd like to read is actually the title poem of that manuscript. A matter of inclusion. Skin, the color of, enough to keep us a devolved species. Our planet is waiting for otherwise. Have you noticed how patient it remains? Really, borders mean little in certain minds. May those minds become our leaders. A matter of inclusion I will share with you. Canada has no need for any lack of possibilities. Canada has needs I see being a citizen. Most are easily supplied as those from other nations continue to be the reminders, those who choose us, those somehow able to decide to leave where war is, to leave where their parents thrived, to leave what offers nothing for the children they keep alive. Skin. We are given in the beginning when we are so little, so brilliant our eyes are the only color we allow to be any influence to cause some loving commentary, no reason for any dispute. So that's my title poem, A Matter of Inclusion. And I'll share another poem here as well, too.
Okay.
This is a poem entitled The Erosion of Borders. Sometimes I see our planet with no borders. I cannot speak against the man or show any allegiance towards a far too old belief he leaves in his war-stolen homeland to steal anything in mine. I will not think against the man or stand with those fearful of the amount of jobs available. He hopes just one becomes his. I must not move against the man or try to forget the steps into the shoes now on feet he will wear to be a dancer. How could I hate him when he has his own dance? He has no fear about hugging the men in his worried family, even kisses them, either saying hello or goodbye. I must not miss the chance to offer a daring welcome when he passes me on a street. The eyes of his children full of his indestructible promises. So there's a couple of poems from my manuscript, A Matter of Inclusion. Thank you for letting me share those.
Excellent. You said you had 4, or did you want to just read those 2?
Well, I wouldn't mind reading one more if you don't mind me reading this one.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I I have a what I would call is kind of there's 3 poems as a sequence, and all of the poems with their titles start with I speak. And having been a poet in a country where I can pretty much, when I want, where I want, and how I want, speak and say what I want. And so far, I'm also able to write what I want.
Hmm.
So this has been something that I've been very keen on being grateful for, but also watching very closely to see if it's changing and if anything's going to be taken away from us, and that type of freedom, squeezed a bit.
Hmm.
So this is called "I Speak for You." Freedom surrounds my life at the moment. Bees doing their thing in white clovers. Laughter at a nearby picnic table is loud. A hot, late day sun turns leg skin red. The whir like noise from the college cafeteria. A microscopic fly's blood hit across this page. Freedom has the voice of a young Bocelli. But I speak for you, caught between a decision I know isn't one anybody around me ponders. A decision to be the one who is a parent, pushed against what must be a final wall by a war your family has never spoke for. I speak for you, knowing thousands here where you chose are quick to call you criminal and target, are convinced they own more than they own, singing to themselves some acceptable version of the anthem you sat memorizing so long you now stand on guard more easily. I speak for you, a little man with a threatening mind, an intelligent citizen seated alone on a bench, a Canadian willing to say what it takes to help you resume being father or mother, freed from the ransom a war insists can be paid.
Hmm. Really thoughtful and interesting work there. I like your essential message of inclusion, and in the last poem, your message of you know being able to just express yourself, and regardless of who you are, and you having your own space to do so. Interesting thoughts there. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I'm curious when we were discussing your book, Squall, and you mentioned that in recent history, I guess the government of Canada has been helping fund the arts. Do you ever have, is it helping the arts flourish, or is there any changes you've noticed since the government has helped started funding the arts and the production of the arts?
Well, we have what's known as the Canada Council up here.
Hmm.
So that's the federal kind of source of funding for a variety of arts, and of course for poetry. It is also the source for presses who are publishing the poetry. I'm just going to speak about the poetry because that's what I know, and
Hmm.
that's what I've been involved in, and that's been happening for a long time. I mean, when we kind of had our big explosion of poets in the 60s, and a lot of them now have gone on to become, the go-to or the more known Canadian poets. There was funds there that were I guess available in a kind of an easier way than today. What I'm running up against today is that, and I'm not going to come. I hope I don't come across as you know calling anything more than it is. But Canada is really ruled here with the academic situation, and meaning universities and colleges and things like that. we have a lot of poets that are professors. I'm not one. I would
Right.
be kind of, if I had to class myself, I would come out of the working class kind of ilk that way. And I mean, the closest I've ever got to that is, doing workshops and talks in schools and things like that, that I've certainly been thankful for. But I don't have that professor's income. So for me, what I'm up against when it comes to funding from the government are their kind of what I call a very kind of narrow availability of grants. And I've had a difficult situation, especially in the past few years. Now that I'm into my 60s, I didn't go for any grants all through my younger years and publishing that way. But of course, my books were published by presses that were taking money, and they're what they call a grant block, or sorry, a block grant to publish the books. And that money, a lot of that money came through either federal or provincial type of funding. So I tried to stay away from it when I was younger, and did a lot of things that were, I think, kind of out of the ordinary to try to come up with, funds and money and things like that, just to kind of stay alive and keep writing.
Right. Well, thanks for joining us today, Chad. And as we conclude the interview, do you have a final message you'd like to impart to our viewers?
Well, Dustin, I'd just like to thank you, and I really admire, what you're doing there with the Parrot Literary Corner. It's been my absolute pleasure, and I just wanted to encourage the viewers and the listeners to support poets, and hopefully, this COVID thing will run away soon and not bother to come back. We'll be able to be back out there, doing more things than that are virtual, or more things that are kind of, live and in person type of events. So go out and hear those things when they come. Support the poets, especially buy their books. That's a really important thing for a poet, because you never know. Buying a few books might mean that after their reading, they can go and have a bite to eat and maybe a few drinks and enjoy themselves that way. So thank you very much, and all the best from here in Nova Scotia, Canada.
Well, thank you for joining us. And do you have any shout outs you'd like to give? Some thank yous to supporters, anybody in particular you'd just like to say hello to?
Yeah, I would like to say a big shout out to, and she's there in New York, Dina Karasik.
Mm-hmm.
She's a very exciting poet and performer. I'd like to say hi to her, and also to any of the Canadians, my Facebook friends that might be watching. I appreciate you tuning in, and also, my publisher over in India. I thank you very much for bringing out my Simona book, and putting some copies in the mail that'll be here soon, I hope.
Absolutely, it's always great to get your gift copies. It's very generous of publishers to do that, and I appreciate them doing that. I'm familiar with Cyberwit. I have several friends who've worked with them. They do an excellent job. I've got several of their publications. So yes, definitely thank you, Cyberwit.
Yeah, they've been an absolute joy to work with.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks for joining us today. It's been wonderful and pleasant talking with you, Chad. And if you guys out there haven't subscribed yet, just hit that subscribe button. It's an excellent way to be in touch with us on the front when we actually put up a new video. This is one of the many shows that the Parrot, New York Parrot puts out. So just subscribe to the channel, and you'll be in touch with a lot of our material. And this literary corner is an excellent opportunity for guests. If you want to be a guest, you can get in touch with me at literarycorner@newyorkparrot.com. Just if you're a creative mind, you can be a novelist, you can be a poet, you can be a musician or a painter. We would like to feature your work. We're really excited to hear from you. So if you wish to join us as a guest writer, there's the address right there that to email me, literarycorner@newyorkparrot.com. And if you missed that PayPal, it's paypal.me/nyparrot. That's for donations. We would like to help. We definitely need any help we can get from anybody to continue our programming, update our production capabilities, and just in general keep promoting this program. So we, also some other literary activities we're doing. So definitely want donations from you guys, and remember our anthology. It's still out. Series 1 is still out, and it will be continuing to be sold on Amazon and Prodi.com in India and thereabouts. And if you are been a guest on our show, we would love to hear your material for Series 2, The Literary Parrot, which will be out in December, early December. So keep your hands busy writing, keep your hands busy reading, and your minds busy and active in thought, and keep the hopes going. And I hope you enjoyed today's programming with Chad Norman from Nova Scotia. And I'm Dustin Pickering, your host. And today has been a wonderful day. And keep your hopes up and have a lovely afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Parrot TV.
Hi, this is the most amazing collection I have read so far. I'm a reading-aholic. Dustin Pickering, you know me from Parrot Literary Corner. This is the Literary Parrot, available at Amazon.com and its various affiliates. If you have not seen this collection, it's 249 pages of glorious global literature in a contemporary vein. This covers a lot of subjects from the coronavirus to violence on the streets, to love, to romance. Everything you can imagine is in this collection, and you should buy it now. I'll tell you why. It's a collection of unique voices from the Literary Parrot. People who have been on our show, have participated in this, or have been published on our website, newyorkparrot.com. So please, I implore you, buy a copy. Thank you, and please return to the show. The Literary Corner, brought to you by New York Parrot TV, the voice for